Welcome to a new series, The Lost Previews, where we'll check out the preview chapters of The Lost Metal, the fourth Mistborn Era 2 novel. I'm Danielle with the 17th Shard, and I am so happy to be here again. And with me is Marvin. Hi, Marvin. It has been a while.
It has been like 2 years almost at this point. Oh no, a year.
About a year, yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah, since we did the last video. And yeah, I'm Paleo, if you can't remember that. And I'm also super excited for Lost Metal finally coming out in November, I think. That's when it's coming out. So really looking forward to it. And also, of course, doing the preview chapter videos again with you.
Yeah, these are always really fun, and they really enhanced my experience of Rhythm of War. So I'm actually very much looking forward to reading The Lost Metal, doing it this way.
Yeah.
So the fourth and final book of Mistborn Era 2, also called the Wax and Wane series, is coming out this November. And we are looking forward to discussing and reacting to the preview chapters. So far, Brandon Sanderson has read a prologue of The Lost Metal. I think it was at the Dragonsteel Minicon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was at JordanCon already as well.
Oh, JordanCon, that's right.
At the Dragonsteel Minicon, he also read the first chapter, is what he did, I think.
I was able to read that on Arcanum. You can find it through the 17th Shard news posts about the Lost Metal blurb, if you want to read that. But today we're going to be talking about the juicy blurb that Tor.com has released last December.
So juicy.
Oh, and just keep in mind, this is going to have, obviously, Mistborn spoilers, also some potential overarching Cosmere spoilers.
Oh, definitely. I think we'll have some or many Cosmere spoilers. Yeah.
All right. So, without further ado, I'm just going to read the juicy blurb. For years, frontier lawman turned big city senator Waxilium Ladrian has hunted the shadowy organization The Set, with his late uncle and his sister among their leaders, since they started kidnapping people with the power of allomancy in their bloodlines. When Detective Marcy Combs and her partner Wayne find stockpiled weapons bound for the outer city of Bilming, this opens a new lead. Conflict between Elendel and the outer cities only favors The Set, and their tendrils now reach to the Elendel Senate, whose corruption Wax and Steris have sought to expose, and Bilming is even more entangled. After Wax discovers a new type of explosive that can unleash unprecedented destruction and realizes that The Set must already have it, an immortal Kandra, serving Scadrial's god, reveals that Harmony's power is blocked in Bilming. That means the city has fallen under the influence of another god, Trell, worshipped by The Set. And Trell isn't the only factor at play from the larger Cosmere. Marcy is recruited by off-worlders with strange abilities who claim their goal is to protect Scadrial at any cost. Harmony's vision of future possibilities comes to an abrupt halt tomorrow night, with only blackness after that. It's a race against time, and Wax must choose whether to set aside his rocky relationship with God and once again become the sword that Harmony has groomed him to be. If no one steps forward to be the hero Scadrial needs, the planet and its millions of people will come to a sudden and calamitous ruin.
So juicy! It's
very exciting.
We had, from some people who went to JordanCon, we had reports of the Dragonsteel staff saying like, oh, it's going to be there are going to be so many Cosmere connections and you guys are going to love it. And this blurb finally made me believe, and I'm really hyped now for the book to come out. Yeah.
Very, very cool. And then when we were reading the Rhythm of War previews, we also had some of that crossover and some major spoilery crossovers from there.
Yeah, definitely. So we can notice that, or we notice that Bren is willing to commit to these connections now, and I think he thinks that they're still relatively minor, but they're really big connections. And I think at least Lost Metal, you're starting to be left behind a little if you don't catch up to the rest of the Cosmere.
Yeah, I think it's also setting the stage for Era 3 shenanigans and kind of tying in all of the different shards instead of just dealing with one on Scadrial, Harmony. Now we have this unknown entity, Trell, and new off-worlders with probably different abilities that they haven't seen before on Scadrial. So very, very cool.
Yep. So maybe let's start at the beginning again and get to these connections a little later. Of course, the first thing we learn is from the blurb is that we have a bit of a time skip, which is something we knew already from Brandon talking about the book. And I think that given I think it's been like the blurb says, it's been a couple of years. So I feel confident that Wex and Steris are going to have a child at this point. So it makes sense that he would be retired and like taking care of his family rather than going around and shooting people.
Right. You said it was going to be 6 years?
I'm not sure about the concrete number of years. It's just some years is what we know, I think.
Now, I haven't really been keeping up with little tidbits of information about this. I'm in the middle of a reread, so I'm actually just right in the middle of Alloy of Law, where Wax is kind of just beginning. So to read this blurb about everything that's happened after the end of the last book, I'm really excited to see how Wax and Steris's relationship has evolved now that they're older. If they have a child, how that's going to play into their whole dynamic.
Yeah.
And then we see that Marcy is the detective with Wayne as her partner.
Ooh, how's that going to go? Yeah.
Now, I wasn't a huge fan of Wayne the first time I read the books, but rereading Alloy of Law, he has some interesting lines. Now, he's kind of awkward around women.
Yeah, I generally like his humor, and I find him like a funny guy, but his behavior around women is sometimes like the whole scene. You haven't been up to it in your reread yet, probably, but the one where he goes to see the daughter of the man he killed accidentally, and it's so like that scene wasn't okay, and generally how he treats what's her face, Renette. How he treats her.
Renette.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be interesting.
Since there is a time skip, that maybe he's matured a bit, especially working with Marcy as, his partner. And after everything that they've gone through, I'm hoping that maybe things have changed between them too.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely going to be an interesting dynamic at the very least to see those two playing off each other. Yeah. I think as far as Marcy is concerned, at the end of Bands of Mourning, she wasn't a detective yet, I think. She was still like a constable. So that's also nice to see that she's been promoted, probably, or like started, or got further in her career, I guess. Yeah.
So then after we read about Wayne and Marcy, we see that Wax and Steris are working together in Elendel. And it seems like it's going to be the first half maybe will be a political plot line to me.
I think it's I can't remember if Brandon talked about this, but I feel like it's going to be like split at the beginning. They might be together, then they discover that weapons stash that's bound for Bilming. Then Marcy and Wayne go there, and in parallel, Steris and Wex probably are trying to figure out set stuff. Things like that, yeah. So also really excited for more Steris. I think Brandon has also confirmed that we'll get more Steris viewpoints, so that's going to be exciting. And
yeah, she definitely stole the show for me. I love her. Such a great character to follow when everything else is so supernatural and she's so practical.
Yeah. It's just really exciting to actually, because I think we had one viewpoint from her in one of the books, and to actually get more of her, that's going to be exciting as well. Yeah. And of course, what the blurb is also hinting at is this conflict between the outer cities and Elendel. And I feel like, I think it's been brewing for the last couple of books already. And I think at some point, civil war might be inevitable. And maybe even some new nations forming. Because currently we sort of have this giant blob that's very Elendil-centric. And they don't really have nations in the north. But at some point, I feel like it's not going to work to have this sort of centralized government, and people might split off. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of the themes, at least during my reread, are about the major differences between the roughs and the outer cities, and then even the different octants. So they develop their own lawmen and their own cultures and everything. So that would be a very interesting thing to see in this book.
Yeah, and with the set working there in the outer cities, that also I think makes sense, because we have a lot of powerful people already in Elendil, and getting a footing there might be difficult, but in the outer cities it's more relaxed, I guess, or not as strict sometimes as well law-wise in the roughs, so they have a much easier time controlling these areas. So that makes sense, and it does make me wonder how much of a public sort of figure or organization the set is at this point. Because if they control whole cities, how would that look? And do they sort of form the government of these cities, or what are they up to there? Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely sounding like they're not really a shadowy organization anymore. Maybe there is, some in like their higher ranks, but if they have an entire city under their control, which is another strange thing. It mentioned that Harmony's power is blocked in an entire city of building.
Yes.
It kind of reminds me of in Alloy of Law, of course, when they're wearing the hats with the aluminum around them. It makes me feel like they're all wearing like tinfoil hats and building.
Yeah, I mean, we do have Lassie, or a Bleeder Palm in Shadows herself, who Harmony can't even contact anymore, and we know that that's due to the spikes, that she lacks spikes. And so I wonder how mechanically that's going to work, that Harmony doesn't have any influence there anymore. Is it a giant aluminium dome over the entire city? That would be pretty hilarious, but probably not. And I mean, the blurb also says that's Trell doing it, which is insane. That there's another shard acting, or some shard-like entity acting there is just wow. I don't know. It's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely my theory when I think about it hard enough. Is that he's working for autonomy, or as a piece of autonomy, which actually would make sense in a mechanical aspect about protecting them against Harmony's influence.
I think that's I think at this point pretty much accepted theory that it's an avatar of autonomy, but it is sort of interesting to think about how powerful that avatar has to be if they can I don't know how it works, but if they can shield that entire city from Harmony's influence, and Harmony has two shards worth of power at his disposal, or at their disposal, I guess. I think it's a common theory that as well from some people that Odium might have some influence on Scadrial at this point, because we are after Stormlight Archive 5, so things might have changed there. So I'm really interested to see how much Trell we are going to get, and yeah.
Oh, right. I didn't even think about that. This is after the 5th Stormlight Archive book.
It is.
So there's things going on that we don't know.
Yep.
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think Brandon has talked about it, that we won't get any sort of conclusion to the entire Trell thing because that's an Era 3 thing mostly. Maybe some stuff is going to happen with how it is in Stormlight Archive, that we sort of get the country or the planet being split up between the groups controlled by the enemy, I guess, and the groups controlled by Harmony still, or like the forces of Harmony, I guess. And then Era 3 is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking this book is really just kind of leading up to a very drastic change between Era 2 and Era 3, and this explosive device that they have to disarm or something. I mean, are we assuming that this is going to be investiture related?
Oh yeah, I definitely think it has to be Edmetal based somehow, because we know that Edmetal is, or the Southern Scadrians already intended to use it as bombs. The Sovereign's Temple, I think, is what one group of them intended. So there's precedent there for an explosive. But I find the phrasing a little weird in the blurb, because they say, like, he has discovered a new type of explosive, and or not necessarily weird. He's discovered a new type of explosive, and he fears that the set already knows about it. So they obviously know about Edmetal. So I wonder what exactly he has discovered.
Maybe some kind of alloy or a mechanism to use it in a more destructive way.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking right now. Maybe, like, we know that the title of the book is Lost Metal, or The Lost Metal, and we have had a lot of people discussing, like, what could the Lost Metal be? Is it, I think in one of the books they name Lerasium Lost Metal, like on the little plaque that they have in the museum thing there. But I don't think it's Lerasium personally. And there's recently been some discussions about, or not discussions, but there has been a new warp and a Word of Peter, actually, that talks about Atium not actually being Atium in Era 1. It's instead an Atium Electrum alloy. And so I wonder whether that plays into Lost Metal, and the Lost Metal is actually Atium, and they're trying to find it or whatever. Or they've discovered that combining it with Edmetal, because it's Ruins metal, would enhance its destructive property and help ruin stuff more, I guess.
Yeah, I haven't really been following the conversation about that word of Peter, but that's another interesting thing about combining these different, like, god metals, what they could lead to, and if people could even burn them, you know, the alloy, because Edmetal obviously is so reactive.
And actually, something I just came up with is maybe there's also some stuff going on with Trellium, like the metal that Bleeder Spike was made out of, because I don't think it's, maybe it could even be, no, it would make sense because it's Trellium, but if Wex maybe discover some sort of anti-investiture stuff as well, so we have some parallels going on there compared to Rhythm of War. So it's not just discovered on Rosha. The Scadrians also might discover it. I don't know.
That is a good point. The Trellium was helping Palm to be free from Harmony. So maybe that is the thing that's in play in Bilming, is the metal.
Could be.
Keeping Harmony from even being able to see what's happening tomorrow.
Yeah, could be. Oh, and that line is also like, Ashad's future side is like pretty good, especially Harmony's with how he has access to Preservation's power, and Preservation was I think one of the best charts at future side. So it's just suddenly ending at some point is a little concerning, I'd say.
Yeah, I could see Harmony kind of being startled by sudden blindness about this, especially when we see how they try to work from behind the scenes, but now they don't know what's going to be happening. And that's an interesting word that they used about tomorrow, because that's such a short time. Is that tomorrow as in from whenever that is brought up in the book? Or is it like the book is only going to be over 2 days? I don't know.
Yeah, that's also something I was wondering about, like, because I think there's way too much to wrap up to make it happen in one day, the entire book. Like, that's not going to happen. So I feel like it's probably going to be like, first part is them discovering these things, and probably Kandra come to Wax and tell him, well, things are going not so well with Harmony, and he has his future sight stopped. And then we have one day where Wax has to decide, okay, I'm going to pick up the mantle of the Sword of Harmony again and do what I must, or what he has to do. Yeah. So I feel like how it's probably going to go, like having those two parts and structuring it like that.
So before they mentioned that tomorrow night, there was an interesting sentence in the blurb that says that Marcy is being recruited by Offworlders.
Yes, that's honestly the line I'm most excited about in this entire blurb, personally. I really like Marasi as a character as well, and I feel like she's predestined to become a world hopper somehow, because she's so interested in things and is so inquisitive, so it makes sense for her to go off-world, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. She's a great great detective. She's really into those statistics and things. She's very inquisitive. So I think out of any of those characters, she would be probably one of the better ones to be working with one of these off-world groups, which we don't know which one it is. It doesn't mention what kind of strange abilities that they have.
Yeah, so I think that's actually the thing we also would have to talk about, obviously. Which group do you think it could be, or do you have any theories on who it could be?
My very first thought was Ghostbloods, for obvious reasons, for people who have read the Stormlight Archive. The Ghostbloods were founded, big spoilers, by Scadrian, who we know is very interested in his planet, their leader Thydakar. And that was my first thought. And when I read that, I was like, oh my God, the Ghostbloods are coming back. But it does say that they're an off-world branch, which the Ghostbloods are, as we've seen in Roshar. And so I think they could be considered an off-world branch. And that was my first immediate thought. And there are others, though, that do have an vested interest in Scadrial.
Yeah. So I think with the Ghostbloods, I don't think we technically know whether Kelsia, it's full spoiler, so I can't say it's Kelsia, obviously, who's Thydakar, and I don't think we know whether he actually founded them. We just know he's their leader currently. So they might have an off-world origin, and so it would make sense for them to be off-worlders in their perspective, from their perspective. Yeah. But I also agree that, like, it doesn't make too much sense. Like, why we from Rhythm of War, we also, or in general Stormlight Archive, we know that cognitive shadows have a hard time getting off their planet. So Kelsia is probably still bound to Scadrial, and I don't think he'd be like sending the off-world branch back to Scadrial to take care of recruiting Marasi. Although it does make sense in a way, because the Ghostbloods, I think, are the only organization we have actually seen actively recruiting people, and also taking an interest in getting different kind of people, and not just like, you have magic abilities, you're part of us because you have those abilities. But another point against them is that we have a lot of non-magic users in the Ghostblood, so they wouldn't have like one set of strange abilities, I guess. So unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be them, although that would be super exciting.
Especially because, like you said, it's right after Stormlight 5, so there might be something going on that we don't know about with them.
Yeah. So my main theory, I'd say, at the moment would be that they are Elantrians, or Salish people at least. Maybe even the Irie, who we've seen in Secret History, of course, and also Rhino in Stormlight Archive, Lighthouse Keeper. That guy is part of the Irie, I think. And of course, from Secret History, we also know that they have some interest in Scadrial. They intended, or the Irie at least intended, to take over Preservation, or have one of them take it up. So they definitely have a vested interest, as you said, some people. They definitely have one in Scadrial. So I think it would make sense for them to be this group of off-worlders, because they, of course, also have pretty strange abilities from a Scadrian's perspective, I'd say.
Yeah.
And
that's very true. I was also thinking that maybe because we've seen Chris on Scadrial in this era with speaking with Wax, and then she was also talking about I think she had an advertisement for like talking items or something. So although I'm not sure if she fits the bill for having like strange abilities on that planet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we know anything about Chris using any sort of magic. Like, she's from Darkside, so they have stuff there, but we don't know if she actually uses those, at least not from the graphic novel, or if she has access to those. But I agree that it could be not necessarily Chris herself, but a group of scholars or just interested people from Silverlight, as it could be as well. I think that's at least plausible. Yeah. People who I don't think it could be is the 17th shard, like the in-world 17th shard, not us.
Yes, we are there recruiting her. Please write articles for us.
Yeah. Because they're generally a non-interventionist group. And again, maybe things happened in Stormlight Archive, or will have happened in Stormlight Archive 5 that change their outlook on the world, and especially Frost, the dragon's perspective. And he goes, okay, maybe it's not too bad to intervene sometimes. But yeah, I don't think that has too much merit, because it would take away some stuff from Stormlight Archive 5 as well. Like, if we already knew that the 17th shard changed their mind, then something really bad must have happened in that book. Oh, will have happened in that book, yeah. I don't think it's them either.
I was also trying to think of other maybe groups that we might not know about, but that seems like it would be very silly to have so many secret groups. Because I was thinking about how Azure or Vivenna was on Roshar, and they were talking about talking items and things. So maybe Awakeners, some kind of strange magic there.
Could be, yeah. I mean, it's also the Awakeners have a pretty easy time carrying around their magic to other places. That's also a thing you have to consider there, that not everyone can use their magic everywhere, which might be a problem with the Elantrian or Salish theory, although they might have overcome that problem at that point. But another thing that made me think it might be people from Cell is that Brandon has talked about how he has to write the Elantris sequels for Era 3 to make sense. Or not make sense, but he has to write it in preparation for Era 3 for something there. So I'm just very fond of the theory that it might be Cellish people.
That is a good point.
It's also just that we haven't had anything from Elantris or Cell in such a long time. It would be a nice way for Brandon to work it into the story without actually having to go there. Although that would be nice as well, of course. Yeah.
Now I feel like I have to add Elantris to my reread.
Who knows? yeah, I don't know. It's because the blurb also says they recruit Marasi, so they still have to be a group that's actively looking for people and not just, like I said, using them for their magic. I don't know.
Yeah, it does use the word recruit, so it seems more official than just a group of people looking for someone. Yeah. But then I wonder, why are they recruiting her? Like, what are their specific reasons for recruiting her?
Maybe they need some detective work done. I don't know. It could just be by circumstance that she is in Bilming at that point, and that Offworlder group is also there, and they notice that she's a pretty good detective, and like might, I don't know, be interested in going off-world and exploring the world, or the Cosmere. So maybe that's it. That they aren't actively looking for her, but as the opportunity arises, they say, okay, I think she'd be a good member.
And then it says to protect Scadrial at any cost. That is a little bit concerning. What are they protecting it from? Trell or Harmony or something else? I don't know what they're protecting it from specifically. It doesn't mention that.
Yeah,
and at any cost, what does that mean? At the cost of Marasi or at the cost of
that's
a shard?
A really good question. Like, also, what is it about Scadrial that they're interested in? Like, is it the people there? Is that what they want to protect, or is it just the planet? Because I don't know.
The metals.
Yeah, maybe the metals that because we know that Lerasium alloys also have properties that might give you connection-related properties, so that might be really valuable to get access to more magics. And I don't know, maybe it's just also a really nice planet compared to others. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Or maybe it's for this mysterious new explosive, because that sounds like it's going to be a defuse the bomb kind of plotline.
Yeah.
So maybe they're worried about the effects that this new explosive might have on the planet itself.
Yeah, maybe. It could also, the cost could also just be that Harmony, I think that is a sensible theory, that Harmony, or at least says it, is going to, I don't know, not necessarily lose the shard, because that would be a little too similar to the end of Hero of Ages for me personally. But maybe that his intent might switch. That's also like a common theory, that Harmony might become Discord, and that might not be such a great thing. Could be anything really at this point. Don't really have any solid ideas.
Is there anything else that you have as far as this blurb or expectations of the book?
I think I'd like to mention at least one more group that might be those Offworlders. It's Knights Radiant, or at least some group of Searchbinders. Again, because we are after, or in that break between the Stormlight Archive arcs in Lost Metal. So it would make sense in some way, I think, for them to be, have an interest in protecting other worlds, just in general due to their ideals, and also they know what happens if a foreign shard intervenes on your planet, so they might also know how to deal with it. But then again, I think it's not really holding much water, because we know it would take away too much from the last book of that arc. So I don't think it's likely that it's any Searchbinders. Yeah.
Although that would be an interesting thing to see, because as we know, the Stormlight could be transported in the gems, and so they're probably the most likely ones to be able to show their strange abilities.
Mm-hmm. That's true, yeah. I think that does hold water, although we also have the problem of the Spren getting off-world, so it's sort of a two-edged sword, I feel like. But yeah, they could fit the bill at least of strange abilities, because flight, or like proper flight and transforming stuff and things like that, it's very different from anything that a Scadrian would see. So that would actually at least fit that part of the description. Yeah.
I would lose it if Marcy meets a redhead girl who can change her face.
That would be.
I would throw the book.
Maybe they go to visit a tailor, and it turns out that the tailor is actually Adolin. Like he decided after SA5, okay, I'm going to leave this field. I'm just going to become a tailor on schedule. Maybe
hey,
like that.
Good for him.
Yeah. And for some reason, there's a strange woman in the back of the shop that's like covered in vines and like has a plant face. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
That would be really fun to see. And one thing that I really like about these books is searching for the little Easter eggs and trying to figure out who's the Kandra or things like that. That's a really fun, almost interactive part of reading these books. So I think that would be really cool.
Yeah,
if we see someone that we know from another book, that would be very, very cool.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what? I didn't even think about this. So Scadrial doesn't really have birds, right? Or it didn't. So we see a bright colored chicken.
Yeah.
And it's like Mraize or someone.
That could be, yeah. Or maybe it's just lived at that point and she's like freshly, she finally accepts she's an adult. Yeah. I don't know. But that would be fun. But I think at this point they still have a lot of birds. Again, because I actually don't know how birds were affected by the Final Empire.
Well, I feel like I've heard somewhere that they didn't have any before, but then afterwards there is a house that has a bird as their symbol. I think it actually might be Wax's house, the Eladrian. Really? It has a bird as their symbol. But anyways, that's my aluminum foil hat theory.
Maybe to get to things that the blurb didn't mention. There was no mention at all of the Southern Scadrians, of course, in this one, which is not concerning, I'd say, but it's weird because they played such a big role in Bands of Mourning, and it would be odd for them to not show up again, especially after a couple of years. They might have established trade at this point, and there's just travel there as well, depending on how much the airship technology has evolved. So that is a little weird, and I hope we see a leak at least again. I'd be very upset if he didn't.
Yeah. They might have something to do with the explosive or designing some kind of a tech that's new.
Yeah. It could be that, that would actually be pretty nice, I think, if Wax worked with some Southern Scadrian, I don't know, scientists or whatever, and they discovered it together. That would be kind of cool, actually. Yeah. Anything you missed in this blurb, or were you happy?
Well, I'm really happy. I just read it last night, because like I said, I'm in the middle of a reread, and so I'm just very excited to see where everything is headed. Things are going to be very fresh in my mind for this Lost Previews series, because I'm hoping to have it done before the preview chapters come out. And then whenever the prologue and the first chapter are officially released, we can discuss those and kind of get into the nitty-gritty about what's going to be happening during this book.
Yeah, that's true. I'm really looking forward to the previews to this one. I wonder how much Cosmere stuff we're going to get in the first few chapters, because I feel like, at least the way the blurb is phrased, it's going to be more towards the end of the book that we get all this. But and at any rate, really excited and can't wait for the book to finally release in November. Yeah.
I love the setting of Mistborn Era 2. Western fantasy is just such a fun and exciting, and it's almost like steampunk or magic punk. I don't know.
Yeah.
Magitech kind of culture. So it's really exciting to just follow even the storyline about Scadrial rather than just focusing on the overarching Cosmere, which is fun in its own right. But the actual story following Wax and Wayne and Marcy and Steris is very, very fun as well. So I'm looking forward to experiencing more with them.
Yeah, same. Like I don't like that we'll have no more Wax and Wayne after this. But I mean, it has to come to an end at some point, and I bet that Brennan has a fitting ending for them. Yeah.
We might see more Marcy then.
That I certainly hope that we'll see more of her. That would be really great.
Well, I think that was a good first Lost Previews episode.
Yep.
Did you have anything else you wanted to say?
Nope. That's about it from me, I think.
So, to our viewers, thank you for joining us. We're really excited to start up a new series of preview chapters. We invite you to come and discuss this blurb, even the prologue, if you can find that on Arcanum, with us on 17thshard.com. Join us on our Patreon, our Discord, our forums for all of your Brandon Sanderson content needs. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.